We tend to walk around thinking our modern era is the absolute peak of human achievement, right? We look back at the past and just kind of assume it was a simpler, much less capable time. But what if we're wrong? Today, we're diving into an explainer that completely challenges that idea. We're going to explore 7 massive global enigmas, ancient machines, colossal monuments, and just totally bizarre phenomena that literally still baffle our greatest scientists and historians today. So, are these just little glitches in the historical record, or is there a much bigger truth out there that we're simply not ready to accept? Let's get into it. To make sense of all this, we're going to break this journey down into 4 main themes. We'll look at lost knowledge and technology, giant and mysterious structures, puzzles of science and faith, and finally ask the big question, is our history incomplete? All right, let's kick things off with part 1, lost knowledge and technology. 2000. Now keep that number in your head because that is the staggering number of years the Antikythera mechanism was ahead of its time, literally 2 millennia ahead of the curve.
So picture this. It's 1901, and Greek divers are exploring a shipwreck when they find what basically looks like a crusted, rusted lump of metal. But fast forward, and modern X-ray imaging reveals something mind-blowing. This thing from the BCE era was actually a highly complex analog computer. It had 37 incredibly precise bronze gears. It could calculate the exact movements of the sun and planets, predict eclipses, and even track the dates for the ancient Olympic Games. The level of Metal Gear perfection here, it absolutely shouldn't have existed back then. Some experts think it was built by a lone, unknown ancient genius. Others, though, theorize it's proof of a lost civilization, like Atlantis. Or, you guessed it, alien intervention. Whatever the real story is, the knowledge to build something like this just vanished.
And that whole mystery of vanished intelligence, it definitely continues with the Voynich manuscript. Discovered back in 1912 by a rare book stealer named Wilfrid Voynich, this book carbon dates to the 1400s. But here's the wild part. It has over 240 pages written in a completely unknown script. Nobody can read it. It's essentially an undecipherable text packed with the most bizarre illustrations. We're talking drawings of weird plants that literally do not exist anywhere on Earth, naked women bathing in strange green liquids connected by these complicated pipes, and astronomical star systems that medieval Europe had absolutely zero knowledge of. Get this. Even modern AI and the absolute best cryptographers in the world have totally failed to crack its code, which leaves us staring at 2 very different theories. On one hand, could this be profound lost knowledge, like maybe a message from an alien civilization, or the very last record of an extinct human culture whose language is just gone forever? But on the flip side, what if it's just an incredibly elaborate medieval hoax, a really complex women's medical guide, or maybe just a highly detailed fake whipped up to swindle some wealthy buyers? But you gotta wonder, if it's just a fake, why go to the trouble of inventing such a systematic, complex language? So that brings up a really crucial point. If we can't even decode ancient texts or figure out how they built pocket-sized analog computers, how in the world do we explain the massive, monumental structures our ancestors left behind, especially without any modern machines? Which brings us right into part 2, giant and mysterious structures. 80. That is the sheer weight in tons of some of the massive Moai statues over on Easter Island. Think about that for a second. That is 80 tons of solid stone, carved using strictly primitive stone tools. No iron, no giant cranes, absolutely zero modern machinery. These things are world famous, standing anywhere from 13 to 30 feet tall. But here is a real game changer that researchers discovered. They aren't just giant heads sitting on the grass. They actually have massive torsos buried deep underground. So the whole undertaking was way, way larger than anyone originally thought. Now, local legends will tell you these spiritual guardians had a magic that let them literally walk to their spots. But modern scientists, they've run experiments using ropes and wooden logs, and they still struggle to reliably replicate how the ancient islanders actually moved these absolute behemoths across miles of really rugged terrain. And if you think that's wild, the pyramids of Giza push the boundaries of the impossible even further. Just recently in 2017, the Scan Pyramids mission used cosmic ray muon radiography, which is this incredibly advanced tech that detects spaces hidden behind thick walls. Well, they found a massive hidden void right inside the 4,500-year-old Great Pyramid of Khufu. We're talking roughly the size of a commercial airplane. We haven't physically gone inside it yet because, honestly, drilling into it might destroy the structure. Is it an untouched royal tomb? A vault hiding ancient technology? We just don't know. Plus, the pyramid has these impossibly narrow shafts and corridors that align perfectly with the stars. It points to this deep, mind-bending connection to astronomy that we still haven't fully wrapped our heads around. Jumping over to the deserts of Peru, we've got the Nazca Lines. Created way back between 200 BCE and 600 CE, the Nazca people essentially scraped away the reddish-brown topsoil to reveal the lighter grayish-white earth underneath. And by doing that, they drew over 300 massive geometric shapes and animal figures. There's a monkey, a giant hummingbird, a spider, but here is the real kicker. The scale of these things is so immense that you literally cannot tell what they are from the ground. In fact, they were only really discovered in the 1930s when airplanes started flying over the desert. Thanks to the super dry, windless climate down there, they've been preserved perfectly for 2,000 years. But experts are totally split on what they were actually for. Were they practical, like maybe vast astronomical calendars tracking the stars, or essential maps pointing to precious underground water sources? Or were they something a bit more out there? Some say they were ceremonial pathways for locals to walk during rituals. Others point out that since you can only see them from above, maybe they were landing marks designed for extraterrestrials. Whatever the answer is, you have an entire civilization that spent massive amounts of energy building designs they themselves could never truly see. It's wild.
Let's shift gears now to part 3, Puzzles of Science and Faith.
So we have to talk about that infamous stretch of ocean between Florida, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico, the Bermuda Triangle. It is home to cases that completely defy all logic. Just take the famous Flight 19 incident from 1945. First, the compasses on 5 American Navy bombers just inexplicably fail mid-flight. Then, the pilots report that their directions have become completely unclear. Third, all 5 bombers vanish. No trace. Nothing. And as if that's not crazy enough, the rescue planes sent out to find them, it completely disappears too. When you stack that up against other massive losses like the USS Cyclops vanishing with over 300 people on board and not even a single SOS signal, it leaves us completely and utterly baffled. Now, the theories trying to explain the triangle are sharply divided. On the natural side, some scientists point to severe magnetic field disruptions that just scramble navigation instruments, or maybe methane gas erupting from the ocean floor, which can drastically lower the water density and swallow a ship whole in an instant. But then you've got the supernatural theories, and those take a very different approach. Some argue it's an alien abduction base. Others genuinely believe that incredibly advanced, still active technology from the lost city of Atlantis is just sitting at the bottom of the ocean, wreaking havoc on our modern machines. Finally, perfectly bridging that gap between science and faith, we have the Shroud of Turin over in Italy. This ancient cloth bears the exact body outline and crucifixion wounds of Jesus, down to the nail holes and the marks from a crown of thorns. But scientists and believers are at a complete impasse here. From a strict scientific stance, a 1988 carbon dating test suggested it was a 700-year-old medieval forgery. However, critics are quick to point out that centuries of historical pollution and various repairs might have heavily skewed those results. On the other side, the spiritual stance emphasizes something science can't quite explain. The image appears to have been burned into the cloth by an unexplainable high-intensity flash of radiation, a supernatural event that simply couldn't be replicated by some painter in the Middle Ages. When we actually plot these incredible enigmas out across a timeline, it really hits you just how persistently the unknown has shadowed us. 4,500 years ago, the pyramids of Giza were built with those giant hidden voids. 2,000 years ago, people were creating analog computers and carving massive shapes into the desert. 600 years ago, someone authored an entirely unreadable manuscript. And just 80 years ago, modern military planes vanished into thin air. From the ancient world right up to today, the mystery literally never stops. Which leads us to our final section, Part 4. Is our history incomplete? Looking at all the fascinating evidence we've gone through today, we really have to ask ourselves a final provocative question. Is our history merely an incomplete puzzle, hiding a reality we're just not quite ready to understand? Are we brushing aside the signs of lost civilizations, advanced ancient tech, and totally unexplained events just because they don't neatly fit into our modern textbooks? Thank you so much for exploring these enigmas with me in today's Explainer. Keep questioning, keep exploring, and definitely let me know what you think the real truth is.